Hello, all of you out there in Radioland. You're currently tuned in to 89.3 WNUR FM Evanston, Chicago. Welcome to Jammin' with Jamie. I'm Jamie Lee, and I'll be jamming here with you until 7 o'clock this morning. Whether you're listening to us over the air or on our website, WNUR.org, welcome to the Jam Session. Portions of WNUR's programming may be inappropriate for younger or more sensitive listeners. WNUR believes this material to be artistically and culturally significant. We will play this music only between the hours of 11:30 p.m. and 6 a.m. If you were jamming with us last time around, I hope you enjoyed our hour-long mix of meteorological melodies. Before we get started, I'd like to give a very special shout-out to my brother James. Happy birthday, buddy! I can't wait to celebrate with you today. Now, this week, we have a special guest joining us. Chicago geek and comic book writer Elliott Serrano. Welcome to Jammin' with Jamie, Elliott. Thank you so much for being here. Why don't you introduce yourself to everyone and tell us about some of the cool things you have going on?
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, thanks for having me this morning. For those of you who've never heard of me before, I'm pretty much, I guess I've been dubbed the quote-unquote king of Chicago geeks. This is something that I had that title kind of put on me by some of my friends in radio, and I guess that came from kind of being involved in geek culture within the city of Chicago for at least the last 20 years or so. And let's see, I've written for the Chicago Red Eye, freelanced as a geek journalist for not only the Red Eye, but Comics Waiting Room. That's an online e-zine. After that, I went on to writing comic books for Dynamite Entertainment, most notably on the Army of Darkness series, as well as, most famously, I guess, if you're going to call that anything in comics, I did a stint on the Grumpy Cat comic book series, which was kind of one of those big surprise hits. I remember being approached to do the Grumpy Cat book, and when the editors at Dynamite said, "Hey, would you be interested in pitching for this?" I said, "This seems like a weird idea, but sure." And it turned out to be a lot of fun, and the book has proven to be very, very popular. And there are already 2 trade paperbacks collecting the miniseries, the 2 different miniseries that were created. Well, I wasn't the only writer on the Grumpy Cat book. There were some other very talented writers, including a Ben McCool, who is a friend, and if you follow him on Facebook, tells some of the corniest jokes you're ever going to read on social media. But yeah, I'm pretty much known for that, and I'm also known for my undying love of Star Wars and Indiana Jones. So I am really, really looking forward to the new Star Wars land that's going to be opening in a Disney World in 2018.
Oh yeah, they just released some pictures to show the progress.
It looks like it's just a big hole right now. I'm looking forward to them filling the hole.
So it's the big pit, basically.
The big pit. It's a giant Sarlacc pit.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just going to be, when you come to Star Wars land, we're just going to throw you in the pit and then see if you can escape. And
everyone will nod to each other.
Nod, right. And C-3PO will keep dictating the odds of your of escape. So
that's wonderful. Now, the Grumpy Cat comic, that was on the New York Times bestseller list, wasn't it?
You know, it's funny. It sold so many copies, and it also sells through Scholastic, which, for those who might not be aware, Scholastic is, if you go to your local school book fair, and the kids buy the different, you buy your
fond memories of that.
Diary of a Wimpy Kid,
Captain Underpants, which has a movie coming out this June from DreamWorks.
Can I tell you something? If I had known you could make a movie about a kid in his underwear, I would have done that a long time ago, or written a book about that. Captain Underpants is almost autobiographical, if you ask me. But yeah. So the collections do sell through Scholastic, and it sells a lot. And you can also buy it at the bookstore. But apparently, from what I understand, Scholastic numbers aren't counted in the overall. So, yeah,
Wow.
the book sells as much as you would think a New York Times bestseller would sell. We just haven't gotten recognized for it yet,
Huh.
which is
Well, I'm
well.
sure the kids love it at the book fairs.
I love how a lot of folks will tweet me photos of the book when they come across it, either in a bookstore or at a book fair. I get that all the time. My friends who have kids who will go to their kids' school book fair and they'll go, "Look, I found the Grumpy Cat book at my kid's school." So it's you know what? It's really cool to know that the work that you've done sells next to Harry Potter.
That is wonderful. Well, I guess we should transition to why I have you on today. So to start us off, I'm going to have to take all of you back in time a little bit. In 2010, it was announced that Pee-wee Herman would star in a new movie co-written by Paul Reubens, who plays Pee-wee Herman, and Paul Rust, and produced by Judd Apatow. I started jamming with Jamie in October 2011, and you longtime loyal jammers will no doubt recall that I was really excited about the film and would announce updates on it as more information was slowly revealed. The Netflix original movie Pee-wee's Big Holiday, directed by John Lee, had its world premiere at South by Southwest on St. Patrick's Day 2016 and debuted on Netflix at midnight on March 18th. So for those of you keeping score at home, that makes today the 1-year anniversary of the film's debut. So I figured this will be the perfect time to talk more in depth about the movie, but I know you're tired of me yakking about it, and that's why Elliott's here to yak about it with me. Since Pee-wee's Big Holiday is on Netflix, which is an ever-expanding platform, it's safe to say that for a whole generation that didn't grow up with Pee-wee Herman in the 80s, this could be their introduction to the character. So before we dive into this film specifically, I wanted to ask Elliott, what was your introduction to Pee-wee Herman, if you can remember?
Okay, so I'm kind of old school Pee-wee, really old school Pee-wee. I remember
Like HBO, Pee-wee Herman show?
I'm talking Paul Reubens appearing in a David Letterman show.
Oh, yes. A lot of those are on YouTube, by the way, if
Yeah.
you want to check those out. They're amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it was when the Pee-wee Herman character. I mean, okay, so I'm going to date myself. I mean, mind you, this is long before you had things like social media, before you had YouTube, before you had all these other channels where someone could kind of become a quote-unquote celebrity or character. I mean, someone like Paul Reubens, if he tried doing his bit today, would, let's say, be a Vine celebrity or create content for the internet. But you didn't have streaming video back in those days. Everything was pretty traditional. You had radio, you had television, and then you had movies. And Paul Reubens, doing his stand-up act would be featured on different late-night talk shows. And this was when this was even before David Letterman had the Late Show that he had on CBS, where he moved up earlier in the evening. He was more like the Seth Meyers or the of his time, although I think they're quite different. David Letterman did a lot more cutting edge stuff back in those days before he kind of mellowed out in his later years. So he'd have someone like Paul Reubens on and do his bit and be his character, and that's where I remember seeing Pee-wee Herman for the first time. And then came Pee-wee's Big Adventure. And that's when you got to see the full realization of how this character could be expressed in a complete narrative. And I remember being really impressed. I mean, when you think about the type of talent that was involved with that film, that feature film with Pee-wee's Big Adventure, that movie gave us, it was the first Tim Burton directed film. I mean,
Yeah, his first feature film.
yeah, because Tim was known mostly for animation before then.
Yes, I know Paul Reubens saw Frankenweenie and that was what made him think Tim Burton would be a good director for Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know where I'll be honest. I don't know where Paul Rubens got that idea because, Tim Burton since then, I think to me, I call Pee-wee's Big Adventure Tim Burton before he needed therapy. Because it was like this lighthearted, really very effervescent, fun film. And you can watch Pee-wee's Big Adventure today, and I still think it's one of Tim Burton's best movies. And Tim Burton's done a lot of stuff since then.
Yeah.
If I have a choice between Tim Burton's Pee-wee's Big Adventure or the first Batman movie that he did with Michael Keaton, I don't know. I think I would probably watch Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and I'm a Batman fan. Because it's just that kind of a film. It's just that much more enjoyable. You end up with a smile at the end, not necessarily with the first Batman. Mm-hmm. And then you had Danny Elfman doing one of his first scores.
Yeah, because before that he had worked on some TV projects. I believe. And
Oingo Boingo.
Yeah.
He was doing the
Boingo.
the band, and it was just an incredible, wonderful. Again, it just fit perfectly for that film. So you see this movie, and you go, holy mackerel! I had no idea that you could come up with this whole film based on this character that you only saw for bits, on a late night talk show.
Oh, definitely. And there were so many actors in that film, either with cameos or supporting roles, who ended up being much bigger names later. You have E.G. Daily playing Dottie, and she later became a very famous voice actress. She was Tommy on the Rugrats and Buttercup on the Powerpuff Girls, which I grew up watching and absolutely loved, so I knew her voice immediately. You had a lot of cameos for people who later showed up on Pee-wee's Playhouse. You had Lynn Marie Stewart, who played Miss Yvonne on Pee-wee's Playhouse. She plays a nun on the movie lot when he goes to get his bike back. We're still talking Pee-wee's Big Adventure here. And then you had cameos from John Paragon, who played Jambi on Pee-wee's Playhouse. He cameoed as the actor with the high-pitched voice on the movie lot. So if you watch the movie, you'll know who I'm talking about.
It's kind of like when you watch old episodes of Seinfeld and you see like Terry Hatcher or, all these folks that have gone on to other things afterwards. You go, wow, I didn't realize that that's where they first appeared. And then, you watch the old Pee-wee's Big Adventure and the early Pee-wee Herman projects, and you go, holy cow, I've seen them in this and I've heard them in that. And it just goes to show the amount of talent that was involved in that first movie, in those first shows, and so on. That that's another reason why I say that's why the character was so well realized, why the movies were so well executed, why the show was so popular. I mean, when Pee-wee's Playhouse was on television, I remember it being just this huge monster hit that took so many people by surprise. And you had, television critics talking about how it was a great show for families, that kids could watch it with their parents and, they can sit down and enjoy it together. And then, then things took a dark turn for poor Paul, which I still to this day do not understand why people gave him such a hard time for that. But, that's me.
Now, you were talking earlier about Pee-wee Herman appearing on David Letterman, and I wanted to mention that in an episode of Pee-wee's Playhouse, there is an actor guest starring playing a character named Rusty, and that actor, I'm trying to find his name, he actually appeared on David Letterman as kind of a recurring role. So that's another little interesting connection there.
I wish David Letterman would have made an appearance on the new movie.
That would have been cool.
Because I remember the only time I've seen David Letterman in a film was in Chris Elliott's Cabin Boy. And, I mean, don't get me wrong, David Letterman is a horrible actor. He would.
He was on Mork and Mindy for an episode.
Yeah, it's also still
Yeah.
a horrible actor.
I'm not going to comment.
But it would have been kind of fun because you did have all those nods. I mean, the thing that I really enjoyed about the new show was that, or the Netflix film, was that it did hearken so much back to the first Pee-wee Herman, the Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I wasn't as big of a fan of Big Top Pee-wee, I'll be honest.
Yeah. I watched it. I did enjoy it. But if I had to choose, I would definitely watch Big Adventure again. But I did enjoy Big Top Pee-wee, especially as it got towards the end and the adults were turned into children and everyone was having fun at the circus. I really enjoyed that.
That's a great message there, too. I think that's kind of like what that's the experience that really we all go through whenever we enjoy something like a Pee-wee Herman movie. I mean, that's essentially what Paul Rubens is trying to get us to do, to get back in touch with our inner child and just enjoy the fun things, the childlike pleasures that the world can give us, because the world gets so darn serious,
Yeah.
I mean, especially these days, things get so serious. You just need a chance to be able to step back and say, I want to have fun. I want to enjoy this. It's a goofy little film. I will say this about between Pee-wee's Big Adventure and moving forward. I just enjoy doing the Pee-wee Herman laugh. I can't quite do it. I used to do a kick ass. Oops, sorry. I used to do a kick butt Pee-wee Herman voice, because that was the other thing too. After Pee-wee's Big Adventure came out, everybody had a Pee-wee Herman imitation. I used to be able to do that one pretty well, but not anymore.
I did find the actor's name. His name is Calvert DeForest, and he played Bud Melman on the David Letterman show.
Ah, well, there you go.
So there we go.
And then, of course, the tequila song. Everyone had to do the little Pee-wee Herman dance, right?
To this day, I hear it, and I have to do the dance. And there's usually at least one person in the room who gets it. And I love that. Now, what you were saying about getting in touch with the inner child while still having that kind of adult touch to it with some of his humor, that kind of actually brings me to my own story of how I kind of got introduced to Pee-wee. It was kind of a weird series of coincidences. So I was on vacation with my family, and this was years ago. My parents were letting me stay in my own little section of the room for the first time. So on our first night at the hotel, because I'm a loner, a rebel, I used my newfound freedom to rebel by watching late night TV, because I'm super hardcore and that's how I rebel. So eventually Pee-wee's Playhouse came on the channel I was watching, and it was like nothing I'd ever seen before. It was colorful, it was off the wall, it was funny as all get out, it had secret words, it had delightful characters, it had talking furniture. It was weird and wacky and completely crazy, and I was instantly head over heels for it. I watched it every night during our vacation, even though we were on vacation. And I found out later that our vacation just happened to coincide with the first few nights that this channel even played Pee-wee's Playhouse. So it was very weird that I happened to catch it on that night. And so looking back, thinking strictly about demographics, when I discovered Pee-wee's Playhouse, I was a little older than the primary target audience of little kids, and I was younger than that secondary demographic of college students who would get all of the subversive humor and double entendres that they have. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, go back and rewatch it, listeners, because you will notice some things that you didn't before. So I got some of the multi-level humor, but since I was between the two demographics, I really shouldn't have liked it, but for some reason it hit a bullseye, and I guess you just can't go by strict demographics, because I just loved it.
Jamie, if there's anything I've learned about you over the time I've known you, is that you do not fit in any strict demographic. Okay, just for
My
folks,
listeners will probably agree with you.
really, I will say this because Jamie, this is a year after the movie came out, and I remember you coming to me and saying, "Elliott, Pee-wee's the new Pee-wee Herman movie is going to be on Netflix soon. Are you going to watch it?" And I would go, "Yes, I will." Come on, Elliott, have you seen it yet? I hadn't seen it yet. I think it was like a good month or so after it debuted on Netflix. I still hadn't seen the movie, and I knew you really wanted to talk about it. And I kept going, okay, I just, for one reason or another, I just couldn't get enough time to just sit down and sit and watch it. I will say this. The moment I did sit and watch it, I was going to myself, why did I wait so long to watch this movie? Because it was cracking me up from beginning to end. It had so many quotable lines.
Oh, yeah.
And it did harken back to Pee-wee's Big Adventure, again, my favorite film. But, I mean, for those who still haven't seen it, besides the Netflix film, which you can still see it on Netflix, can we see like Pee-wee's the Pee-wee's Playhouse and others? Where else do people just have to buy it on video, or can they find it on Netflix or any streaming services?
Well, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Pee-wee's Playhouse, and the Pee-wee's Playhouse Christmas special are streaming on Netflix. The original Pee-wee Herman show from 1980-81 is on Netflix as DVD only. As far as other streaming services, they might be on iTunes. I do know that Pee-wee's Playhouse got a Blu-ray release from Shout Factory recently, and it really looks amazing.
I get a lot of releases from Shout Factory. They'll send me things, and I love
Shout Factory.
I want to give Shout a shout.
Yeah.
Because I know some of the folks over there, and they do a great job putting together the Blu-ray releases and so on. They're constantly sending me My Little Pony videos, and I love you guys, but do they want to turn me into a brony? Is that what I'm getting from this? I pass those videos on to my nieces and nephews. My nieces and nephews. I can have nephews like My Little Pony as well.
My first Shout Factory DVD was The Middleman.
The Middleman.
Yes.
Yeah.
That one season TV show that was on ABC Family. I loved it. And
yeah, it's too bad. It
crazy
was a good show too.
Yeah.
But a lot of folks were calling it like the American Doctor Who, from what I'd heard. I'm going to be honest. I have yet to catch an episode. It was based on a comic book, and I remember that the showrunner on it, also worked on the comic book.
Javier Grillo-Marxuach, who also worked on Lost and Charmed, and is now going to work on the reboot of Xena Warrior Princess.
Now that should be fun. Although why they're not bringing back Lucy Lawless makes no sense to me.
He's apparently not in charge of that.
Well, he should be.
But yeah,
he should say, "Darn it, I want Lucy back." Everyone wants Lucy back.
Yeah. So I guess we should dive into the movie. By the way, if you haven't seen the movie, I'm going to warn you right now. Spoilers. This movie's been out for a year. Today, I think we're clear on spoilers. Maybe. Does Netflix have a spoiler?
Yeah, I will say first of all, I can't believe that they killed Joe Manganiello at the end. I can't believe that there was
that Joe Manganiello
that he dies. Also, by the way, I will mispronounce his last name. I will say his last name I don't know how many times.
Pee-wee Herman can't even say it either in the movie.
I know.
Manganiello.
He probably saw my interview with Joe at San Diego Comic-Con from a few years back, where Joe just was not very impressed with me. I don't blame him. When I look at that interview, I'm like, ugh, dude, you should have gone in knowing better. It was funny because I remember when I did meet him first. Joe is a tall dude. He is tall. I mean, he's a big guy.
Like it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm 5'9.5". You know, if I'm wearing my flats, I'm 5'9". If I'm wearing regular shoes, I'm like almost 5'10". And I remember meeting him, and he's a big, beefy kind of dude. I mean, I remember when he did that run on True Blood as the werewolf guy. I'm going, oh yeah, no, this guy was the women were completely into him. But when I met him, the first thing that I kind of like flashed on, pun intended, was him playing Flash Thompson in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie, with Tobey Maguire. So I'm walking in, and he's promoting his Behind Enemy Lines movie with Mr. Kennedy of the WWE. And I'm thinking Flash Thompson the whole time, forgetting everything else that he had done before, and that, which was bad on me, because I would have loved to have had even, let's say, a conversation with him about his work on The West Wing, which is like one of my all-time favorite shows. But no, super nerd Elliott in the middle of San Diego Comic-Con, and all I'm thinking is I'm talking to Flash Thompson. But,
man.
But
well, you
nice
know what?
guy.
You know, and if it's any consolation to you, if I'm ever in a position where I'm meeting him, I'm just going to be thinking about him playing Joe Manganiello in Pee-wee's Big Holiday. Yeah, if you haven't seen the movie, Joe Manganiello plays Joe Manganiello. Apparently, they were going to give the character a different last name originally. And there is someone who has a cameo in the movie who sells Pee-wee Herman a slice of pizza in New York City. And that actor's name is the name they were going to use. And so his condition to use his name in the movie was to get a cameo. And then they ended up not using the name. Joe Manganiello had the idea, why don't I just use my real name?
Which is a great idea. I mean, when you think about it, him playing essentially a version of himself really made the movie work for me, instead of playing like a version, like a parody. Well, he is kind of playing a parody of himself.
Yeah.
But just the fact that he is just playing himself, the kind of the tall, handsome sex symbol who is just a kid.
Just a little kid.
Yeah, just a little kid.
Yeah. A lot like, personality-wise, a lot like Pee-wee Herman, actually. And that's why they bond when they first meet. And yeah, man, that was so funny to watch someone who looks like that to act like a little kid. That's so much fun to watch.
I mean, it's very much...
He's so good at it.
Yeah, that's very much the experience people have seeing me, is they go, oh my goodness, look at this guy. He's so buff and good looking, and he acts like a little kid. Okay, now I wish there were a laugh track right now, because anyway, if
you're on the radio, you can say whatever you want about your appearance, and no one can verify it.
Oh no, people know what I look like. They know what I look like. No, I am nothing like Joe Manganiello. See, and again, that's why I know I mispronounced his last name, even to his face, when I met him. So I guess another reason why he wasn't very impressed. And I'm sure that when Paul Rubens decided to put that joke into the movie, Joe went, you know what? People do that all the time. So
yeah, and it's also it serves a double purpose. It makes fun of how people can't say his last name, but also it's a joke that we've seen throughout different Pee-wee Herman projects, that he has a lot of trouble pronouncing things he's not used to. So in the Christmas special, he can't say Feliz Navidad. He says Feliz Navidad. And then in the Pee-wee Herman show on Broadway, his handyman, Sergio, is trying to teach him how to say caballero, and he keeps going caballera. So he can't say anything in Spanish, and he can't say Joe Manganiello's last name.
Unless they're dreaming.
Yeah.
And I will say
and they're in slow... Pee-wee Herman has dreams in Pee-wee's Big Holiday, and they're always in slow motion. They're always in Spanish, and they have fireworks in the background.
It's the funniest thing.
He's got some epic dreams.
Yeah.
Also, they're in Spanish with no subtitles, which actually kind of reminded me of in Pee-wee's Playhouse. In the later seasons, they would have the El Hombre cartoons in Spanish with no subtitles. They would do that as kind of acknowledging, giving something to the kids who were watching who spoke Spanish, because if you spoke English and you watched the show, you had an advantage. If you spoke Spanish, you would have to watch with subtitles. So when the El Hombre cartoons came on, that was something then that the kids who speak Spanish could watch.
And for you non-Spanish speakers, I mean, all you really needed was like high school Spanish to understand. If you really knew, if you took like 2 years of high school Spanish, you were okay with that.
Yeah.
So So it never got really too far out there, So I
I
would
have
say,
zero Spanish experience, so I watched El Hombre and just tried to go by what's going on.
Well, now there's Google Translate for.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
Or I guess since it's on Netflix, maybe I can turn on subtitles, see what it says.
You can do that.
I guess I could do that.
Or on the Blu-rays from Shout Factory.
Yes. Yeah, there's an idea. Can't believe I never thought of that. Yeah. There are actually a lot of jokes and catchphrases in this movie that are callbacks to other things he's done. I have like a whole list here because I'm such a Pee-wee Herman nerd and geek that when I watched it, I was going, oh, that's like this movie. That's like this TV thing that he did. So he has the Rube Goldberg device in the beginning to get him up in the morning, except this time instead of just his house, it takes over the whole town. The whole town gets involved to help him get ready in the morning.
That was pretty awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
when you're gonna revisit something from previous iterations, you got to go bigger every time.
Yeah.
Go bigger. And I remember with that first one, I'm just like, holy mackerel! It just keeps going and going. I want a Rube Goldberg device that gets me to work like that one, that one did.
Oh my gosh. That would be wonderful. I would look forward to getting up in the morning.
It dresses me. It brushes my teeth.
Yeah, you never see how he gets dressed either in either one. In Pee-wee's Big Adventure, he slides down the pole, and then he's dressed. And then in Pee-wee's Big Holiday, his bed flips over, and then he's dressed. So something happens that we don't see.
Well, he uses the same technology that Batman and Robin used in the original
yes,
Batman
of course,
television
and then he
series.
adapted it to make it work for the bed.
Hello,
of course.
Hello.
Yes.
Between the automatic dressing technology from Batman,
Yes.
and the transporters from Star Trek, those are the two things that if we finally make them in real life, that's going to change everyone's life automatically.
That is really funny that you mentioned that Batman connection, because in one of the Tim Burton Batman movies, Paul Rubens plays the Penguin's dad, and Diane Salinger, who plays Simone in Pee-wee's Big Adventure and plays Penny King in Pee-wee's Big Holiday, she even says au revoir in Pee-wee's Big Holiday as kind of a callback to her role in Big Adventure. She played the Penguin's mom.
Paul Rubens does again play the Penguin's dad in Gotham.
Yes, I tuned in to see that. That was so cool. And then when he came back as a ghost in a recent episode, that was really fun too.
A ghost?
Yeah,
was he a legit ghost? Okay. Full disclosure: I do not watch Gotham.
Neither do I.
Because I can't handle a Batman show without Batman.
Well, I watched it to see him, and apparently in the most recent episode, they reveal at the end that it wasn't really his ghost. It was somebody disguising himself
as a ghost,
as the father. And since the father is dead, everyone assumed, oh, he's a ghost.
All right, that okay.
So sorry, spoilers for Gotham, but I guess if you haven't seen the episode, you probably don't understand what I just said anyway.
Yeah, that's okay.
So I guess the spoilers mean nothing to you.
I don't understand a Batman show without Batman, to be honest. But I mean, again, you get Paul Rubens on it, it gets my interest. And then when Paul Rubens is gone, you've lost my interest.
I watched him on the Blacklist as well as the henchman / hitman who can't stand the sight of blood and has a soft spot for animals.
Aww.
That was really funny on a show that was so serious.
I wrote a screenplay treatment with Paul Rubens in mind.
Oh, that's wonderful.
But it would have been it was a homage to the Die Hard movies, but it would have starred Paul Rubens. To me, that's only amazing. Works if Paul Rubens plays the role.
Oh man.
So
I could see the character of Pee-wee Herman just being in any genre and making it awesome.
Oh yeah, you can use Pee-wee almost everywhere. That's what I'm anxious to see what he does next, as far as what other kind of movie or series he does with the character, because you can do so many things. I would love to see a science fiction, Pee-wee Herman science fiction film.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Can you just imagine his reactions to all the devices he sees? I've joked with people before. I would watch a series of just Pee-wee Herman reacting to things. Just like picking up gadgets and going, ooh, ah, and doing different things with them. he did that on his show a lot. He would pick up giant underpants and do crazy things. He'd pick up a yo-yo and he would walk the dog, but then the yo-yo transforms into like a claymation dog and actually starts walking, which I've never seen anyone do that. I guess Pee-wee is a master at yo-yoing.
We have Pee-wee. You could have Pee-wee Herman in space, and he'd have like a talking spaceship.
Yeah.
And he'd go to different planets and meet all these different alien creatures.
He could reunite with Zizzy Beluba from Pee-wee's Playhouse.
There you go. He could have Joe Mangalelo as his pilot, as like, the starship captain.
Oh, man.
And he would be the first mate. And then you can have all these characters, and you can do this whole bit where they're just, they crash land on different planets.
We need to write this.
Or stuff.
We need to write this.
Okay, Paul. Okay, we're just letting you know, we're happy to. We'll sit in a writer's room with you. Let's do it.
Oh yeah. Instead
of his Pee-wee Herman dance on big clogs, he'll do it in space boots.
Oh man.
No, he can do a scene where he meets Gene Simmons from Kiss. You can do all these great cameos. Oh, yeah.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
And he'll take Gene Simmons' boots from the Demon and do the dance in those things. That would be awesome. Look at that. We're
Look at
snapping this out.
Yeah.
Snapping it out.
Oh, man. We should stop before someone steals the idea. By the way, if you guys want to contribute to our conversation, we have the phone lines open and we can actually put you on the air. So if you would like to call in at 847-467-2498 or 847-467-0618, you can call in with your thoughts on Pee-wee's Big Holiday or with your other Pee-wee Herman stories, and we can put you on the air. Speaking of Pee-wee Herman stories, as promised, I have some stories that I got from Twitter, and as promised, I'm going to look at some of them. So we have this tweet from @Mr. Pete saying that he loved Pee-wee's Big Holiday. We have a tweet from Steve Wilson saying, I thought that movie was hilarious. He actually thinks it's funnier than the other Pee-wee Herman movies, and he mentioned the water moccasins joke, which I will revisit in a second because we got a wonderful string of tweets from Chris Hamby, longtime loyal jammer. He told us a wonderful story about how Pee-wee's Playhouse was one of the first shows he watched as an infant. Years later, he discovered the Pee-wee Herman Show special from HBO from 1981. And he distinctly remembers the whole lunchroom manners short that they showed with Mr. Bungle and how to have good manners to not be Mr. Bungle. Except I don't think they ever showed Mr. Bungle, which I thought was... Maybe they did in another short, but I've tried. I can't find pictures of Mr. Bungle.
That's bad manners right there.
Right. Yeah, show us what he looks like if you don't want us to be like him. And also Chris Hamby mentioned how he saw Paul Rubens on Wait, or he didn't see him. He heard him on NPR during the Wait, Don't Tell Me show. We also got a tweet from David Stephen Cohen, who was a writer on Pee-wee's Playhouse. He was responding to a tweet that I sent out with a picture of my foil ball at home, in case you were wondering just how big of a Pee-wee Herman fan I am. I have a foil ball that is constantly growing, and I put it...
How many pieces of foil are in that thing?
100 as of now.
Now, do you collect foil? Like, do you need people to contribute to your foil ball?
If they want to, I guess they can, but until now, only a couple people have known about it, so now I guess the whole world knows.
Where should folks send their foil to for your foil ball?
Oh, gosh, I should set up a P.O. box or something, or really, honestly, just send them to Pee-wee Herman. I don't feel deserving of people sending me foil for my foil ball. Send them to Pee-wee Herman, or send them to Netflix as a sign that they should make another movie.
I'm pretty sure as successful as his last one was, I think Pee-wee can do anything he wants right now. So
I hope so. I loved how... Ooh, I should go back and talk about that water moccasins joke. When now Pee-wee Herman is on a snake farm in this movie, and just like in Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and apparently just like in real life, Pee-wee is not fond of snakes. So he's on a snake farm. And the character of Jimmy on the snake farm is played by Lynn Marie Stewart, who was Miss Yvonne on Pee-wee's Playhouse and also had a cameo as a nun in Big Adventure. So he's walking around the snake farm, and he sees a big barrel that says water moccasins on it, which obviously is a very dangerous type of snake. He opens it up, and it's just filled with water with a pair of moccasins sitting on it. And
now you realize that works better as a visual joke. It does.
It works better as a visual joke, definitely.
Like when you explain it, and they're like, because you kind of see that one coming.
Yeah.
What sells it though is Pee-wee's expression afterwards.
Oh my gosh.
That's what really sells
His disappointed reaction.
Yeah.
Lame. Rip off. He says it's a rip off, but he got in for free.
Well, I remember that was a kind of an homage to the old P.T. Barnum bits where you'd go into, he'd say, the most shocking thing in the world you'll ever see, and you'd pay like $1 or like $0.25 or something to walk into a room and see some really poorly constructed, statue or paper mache bit, or even a mirror. That would be the bit that's supposed to be the joke behind it, and either you got something out of it or you didn't. It was the experience of it that he would later say. You were buying an experience here, and then, but the key was always when you saw something, you never told anyone else what the trick was, because you were then at that point you were in on the joke. So that when somebody else paid their $0.25 to kind of essentially get ripped off, you were part of the whole bit. So
that's awesome.
To me, that's why. So when Pee-wee Herman goes lame, they're going, oh, look at that. He's again giving all these. Here, I guess this is the bit that why Pee-wee Herman works so well, is he is such an innocent character, and you can relate to everything that he says and goes through. And a lot of times when he says certain things, he's essentially saying the same thing you would say.
Yeah. To clarify, we just said we relate and identify with Pee-wee Herman.
Well,
there's a wonderful sentence.
It is. It's kind of, again, in these days with things being as serious as they are, I mean, I don't have any shame in that. I think that's kind of cool.
He did get his money's worth when he saw the monster, though. They call it the monster.
Don't give that one away.
I'm not going to.
That one's a good one. That was it, because there's so much.
And it leads to a wonderful running gag.
Yeah.
That is actually a callback to the Pee-wee Herman show on Broadway. And I would love to know where they got the soundbite for that running gag. I really want to know where that soundbite came from. And I can't believe no one's ever asked him in interviews, where did you get that soundbite? Because that's so funny.
To me, I'm sure that if there's somebody out there who's got kind of like you're either like a total like audio nerd or a degree in that sort of thing, you would know that. There's so much history that's embedded within all the things that Pee-wee Herman does. Like you've made references to all the callbacks and the running jokes. But, again, every time I look at the things, I can see, that's what inspired that, or it looks like that's what inspired that. I would love to be able to sit down, with Paul Reubens and go, dude, were you thinking of this when you created that? Because I know there are times when you just come up with similar ideas, not necessarily, knowing them, knowing of the other idea. To me, I don't know. Has Paul Reubens done a biography yet on any of his work, or a retrospective on any of his work? Because that is something I would love to read.
Yeah, I don't believe he personally has done one, but there have been some, entertainment or the E! Network doing a documentary, or there was actually a book that I read, The Unauthorized History of Pee-wee's Playhouse, and that is a really good read too. The author of that book actually interviewed a lot of people from the show, not Paul Reubens though, but it is a really cool read.
He really should. I mean, I would be fascinated to read like his memoirs, something where he just recounts from his early days of doing comedy throughout, his career. The I want to say, the whole. Okay, so for folks who might not know the complete history of Pee-wee Herman, he is pretty much an American tale. I mean, he's what you call your comeback kid. He's your rags to riches to rags back to riches kind of story, and it's just fascinating if you've been following him for as long as, like, let's say, as I have. It's really very inspirational when you think about everything that he's been through and a lot of different obstacles he's had to overcome.
Yeah, and even just the fact that as the creator of Pee-wee Herman, he has a hand in writing whatever Pee-wee does, even if he doesn't write it exclusively. And just to me personally, that was a big inspiration. When I was going through school, I would tell my teachers, my professors, and my fellow students that I'm a performer as well as a writer and director. And a lot of the more old-fashioned teachers would say, well, no, you can't be both. You have to pick one. And some of them would even say you can't even be good at both. That's not possible. You have to pick one. So pick whichever one you're good at and stick with that, or you're not going to be successful. So I have kind of a list of people in my head as kind of a rebuttal to that. And Paul Reubens is one of them. I say, look at Paul Reubens and what he did with Pee-wee Herman. Can you imagine Pee-wee Herman if Paul Reubens didn't create him or didn't play him?
Oh, definitely. And the thing with Paul Reubens, too, and the Pee-wee Herman character, the fact that he has so much control over it, that's also another really unprecedented thing. I mean, you look at the other comedians of the time who had either they created the characters, they had the characters created for them. I think about Andy Kaufman and the Latka Gravis character that he kind of got stuck with over the years, and he was trying really, really hard to break away from that. And, but he had so much control put over him because he he kind of like fell into this whole bit where the television producers were saying, this is the character, we want you to play it like this. And Andy Kaufman just got sick of it because he had no control over it. So and when you have the system kind of set up that way and you have television studios and movie studios saying, well, you can't do this. It's great to see a Paul Reubens, break through that and say, no, you know what? I want to do this my way.
Yeah. And I'm sure there are other examples. Oh, sorry.
No, I mean, to me, I still don't understand this whole mindset that when people say you can't do this, you can't do that, when there are so many examples to the contrary. I mean, look at Lucille Ball.
Yeah.
I mean, Lucille Ball, she was told, one, that a woman can't be a producer in television.
Yeah.
Boom, she proved them wrong.
And she was told she wasn't photogenic.
Boom, wrong.
Couldn't be an actor.
Right. Boom, wrong. She was told that, you can't do multiple cameras on a sitcom. Boom, they were wrong.
They did it. And now everybody does that.
Now everybody does it. She was told you can't do a sitcom on film. Boom, wrong.
Yeah.
So again, this whole you can't do this, you shouldn't do that. Let's stop using those words.
Yeah. Let's say, oh gosh, I had a wonderful improv teacher at Second City named Rachel Mason. She's wonderful, and if you ever get to see her in a show, highly recommended. She's wonderful. She always said, if someone tells you it just isn't done, you say, then I'll do it.
There you go. Or it's like when or then you'll have those, like the line from The Princess Bride where they go,
I need to see that.
Yep. Oh, you have not seen The Princess Bride?
I need to see
Okay,
that.
so I need to nag you to see The Princess
It's
Bride.
your turn to nag me.
To nag you, to make sure you see, because then afterwards you're going to go, oh my God, why did I watch
so
this
long?
sooner? Because that one
Everyone's
has just
always
as many.
quoting it.
Right.
And I want to know what they're quoting.
It's inconceivable that you have not seen this movie.
I do not
Pee-wee,
think that word means what you think it means. I know that much.
Pee-wee Herman's in it, just so you know. Paul Reubens has a small role.
Oh, well, now I have to watch it.
I'm lying.
Well, what I was saying before about comedians having control over how they portray their characters, I'm sure there are other examples, but one that I can think of from the time period, a contemporary of Paul Reubens, would actually be Cassandra Peterson, who plays Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, that character was created for her, but she had a huge role in transforming it before it went on the air. They originally had something else in mind for that character, so basically by the time it went on the air, it was just the name that was the same. And by the way, she has a cameo in Pee-wee's Big Adventure as the biker lady who says, "I say you let me have him first."
Speaking of, and that back to the Pee-wee's Big Holiday.
Right.
I mean, for the and speaking of the women in all the Pee-wee Herman movies, oh my God, where does Paul Rubens find all these gorgeous women who fight over him? That's something I cannot relate to.
I don't know. At this point, to be in a Pee-wee Herman movie, I feel like a lot of people would be clamoring for that. I'm not saying I'm gorgeous or anything, but I would fight to be in a Pee-wee Herman movie.
But would you fight over Paul Rubens? I mean, would you fight over Pee-wee? Would you yeah.
Romantically, I don't know, but to be his friend.
But the character,
definitely.
it's always a character,
right?
Be the whole bit there.
Yeah, I think I would. Yeah. Yeah, I loved that scene with all the farmers' daughters. Oh my gosh. The 9 farmers' daughters who each made a different dish for dinner.
It's funny because, again, that's the old joke. It's the old, the
and
salesman.
I didn't know it was an old joke until I read a review of the film and someone mentioned it. So I looked it up. As I said before, I relate to Pee-wee Herman because I was pretty innocent going into this Google search going, oh, what's the old joke about the farmer's daughter? Oh.
There you go.
That's it.
It's the untold story of the farmer's daughter.
Yeah.
So you really shouldn't be that. You shouldn't get on the poor salesman as much because they didn't give him much choice.
Yeah.
For what happens in each situation, and it's through. That's another bit about, again, the Pee-wee Herman, the narratives, all the things that he puts together with his show. Where if you're a younger viewer, you just think it's funny that this farmer has 9 different daughters, and
they all want to marry the first man who walks in the door.
They're very persistent.
Yeah.
Although a woman shows up at my window with an apple pie, or what was the food she had, I was like, oh, it's going to be it's hard to turn that one down.
And one of them is sitting on the roof with a whole candlelit dinner set up.
Yeah, they were wooing. I was like, wow.
One of them was under the bed.
If I don't know, if farmer's daughter wants to woo me, that would be very effective. But then and then the older viewers who know that kind of stuff, again, we get a chuckle out of it because I know where that came from.
Yeah. And then for people like me, it's flipped. And now if I see it anywhere else, I will think of Pee-wee's Big Holiday first. I guess I should probably tell a little bit of an anecdote here. If you read my blog, you'll see that, first of all, I'm a huge fan of Pee-wee Herman, but I also talk about, for some reason, I noticed that when Pee-wee Herman starts to cry, I mean actual tears, sobbing, crying, it just breaks my heart in a way that made me notice, in a way that, I'm watching other movies and I get sad, but for some reason, watching Pee-wee Herman specifically cry is really pretty heartbreaking. So, warning for those of you who feel the same way, watching Pee-wee's Big Holiday, it is going to send you through the emotional ringer. He cries multiple times in the movie. And opening scene. The opening scene when he's with Yule and saying goodbye to Yule, he's already sobbing. And I think I actually said out loud when I was watching it, out of the gate! Because I was hoping, don't cry, Pee-wee, or at least don't cry until the climax of the movie, because that's when it's supposed to get emotional. But man, out of the gate, he's already sobbing, and he's so heartbroken. Thank you, movie. You made that wonderful for me.
Well, that's the whole bit about, with Pee-wee's Big Holiday especially. It's The journey, it's like the whole leave home and go out and find something new, break away from what you've known before. But the fun thing about Pee-wee's big holiday is that when you take this trip, when Pee-wee takes this trip to kind of get away from his everyday and have an adventure, he still has some comforts with him. And as viewers, we have our comforts as well. There are these familiar things that occur, and Pee-wee's kind of our companion, as we are his companion when he goes through this whole journey of discovery. So it works on so many levels. It works on that emotional level. Works on a narrative level. You can sit there, you can deconstruct it as a writer. The great thing about the Pee-wee Herman movies is that you can string together all these little experiences. I remember with Pee-wee's Big Holiday, I'm watching it, and it feels like a whole bunch of different mini episodes of a TV show stitched together into a big movie.
And yet it has this wonderful emotional through line that makes it feel like it's complete and doesn't make it feel completely episodic. And yeah, it's really cool how it can go back and forth between having these emotionally gut-wrenching moments to suddenly having, female bank robbers that are dressed in reference to the 1965 movie Faster Pussycat Kill Kill. That's in this movie. And then they can have a musical number that comes from the 1953 film How to Marry a Millionaire, which starred Marilyn Monroe. The melody is the same, but the lyrics are different, and I'm not going to spoil what it is. It's wonderful, and oh man, I love random musical numbers. So I was already happy, but that just put it way over the top. I was so excited. And then, the next scene, he can be slowly letting the air out of a balloon. And it's amazing. For you film geeks out there, when he is doing that, from the time he reaches into his suit to take out the balloon, that is one uninterrupted shot, and all the sound coming out of the balloon apparently was live on the set. They didn't do anything in post.
Wow.
So he is just really good at playing the balloon, he calls it. And that also is a gag that he did in the Pee-wee Herman show on Broadway, so you can see it there, except they added a little bit to it when he's literally playing a song on the plays Jingle Bell.
And that's when I was actually glad that I hadn't seen the Broadway special, which I know they've showed it on HBO a few times. You can see it.
You should see it.
Yeah, but
it's so good
because that scene in the movie, I was saying to myself, I don't know where he's going with this. I have no idea where he's going with this, and it was just cracking me up. It just cracked me up the whole time.
So for once, you and I are reversed. You had no experience with it, whereas I have seen him do it a million times on late night shows, on the Pee-wee Herman show on Broadway, on morning shows where all the anchors would get balloons and he would show them how to do it. So I'm to the point now, my friend basically told me I'm trained now. I'm trained. As soon as he takes out the balloon, I'm already laughing. And by the time he's done, I've got tears streaming down my face and I can't breathe. My laughter has gone silent. That just kills me. Maybe it'll literally kill me because I won't be able to breathe.
No, we won't. I don't want that to happen. Maybe you need to stop watching that.
Just don't watch it a bunch of times in a row, I guess. Oh my goodness. Gosh, we could just talk about this forever. For those of you who are wondering about the Pee-wee Herman show versus the Pee-wee Herman show on Broadway, they are two different things. They have a few similarities, so if you've seen them both, you'll get the connections, but they are different enough that I would say if you've seen one, you should see the other, because they have so many differences. First of all, the biggest difference is that the Pee-wee Herman show on Broadway incorporates so many of the characters from Pee-wee's Playhouse. Some played by the original actors, some not, but they're all wonderful. And some of those actors have cameos in Pee-wee's Big Holiday. Unfortunately, I didn't get to my huge list of cameos. You should see my list of all the cameos.
You should tweet a picture of it on your Twitter.
I should. I should do that.
So how can people follow you on Twitter?
Well, you can follow me at Jackalope Jamie. That's Jamie. And you can follow Elliott at Elliott Serrano.
That's 2 L's, 2 T's, and 2 R's.
Yeah. You and I have difficult to spell names.
Well, let's all double down. I am the progenitor of the double down.
Yeah. And if you guys want to see more about how much I love Pee-wee Herman, you can look at my blog. I've written about Pee-wee's Playhouse, the Pee-wee's Playhouse Christmas special, and Pee-wee's Big Holiday. I'm sure someday I'll write about Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I'll need something to write about.
Someday is like tomorrow.
Could be. It looks like we actually have a little extra time if you had anything that you wanted to bring up.
Oh, no, but we still have lots of talk about Pee-wee Herman here. But,
definitely.
it's, I'm curious as to okay, so if you're going to look at how the Pee-wee Herman experience kind of has molded your perception of entertainment and all that, what is the one lesson that you took away? I mean, you've already talked about how someone like Pee-wee Herman tells you that it's wrong to say you can't do this, you can't do that. But for you, someone, let's say in your age, what do you think is the most common thing that people walk away knowing Paul Rubens or Pee-wee Herman as? What is the one lesson that someone like him or a character like him teaches you?
Well, I guess the answer for someone like me versus someone my age is probably very different. Speaking as someone, like I said, saw Pee-wee's Playhouse between the two demographics, shouldn't have liked it, and yet I did. So I guess me personally, I guess I have to narrow it down to one thing. Oh, man. I guess just keep working as hard as you can toward whatever it is you want to do. Because you look at the history of, yes, the Pee-wee character in the movies and also Paul Rubens. It's just a history of constant working to get to something very specific, whether you're trying to find your bike or trying to get to Joe Manganiello's birthday party or trying to revive a character from the 1980s and put it on Netflix and have a whole comeback. What about you? Same question.
Pee-wee Herman has taught me that you can celebrate just being, looking at the world with a sense of wonder and innocence, and that you're not necessarily alone with that other people will embrace it as well. And if you embrace it, you will be surprised at really how much it can benefit you.
That's what I should have said. Because I feel exactly the same way about that, too. Seeing that character for the first time, I went, wow, this is a lot like me, where he's very innocent, but every so often he puts in a very, I don't know if you'd call it mature, because maybe they're immature jokes, but a very adult joke will slip in, and everyone's surprised because it's Pee-wee Herman. You should see people's faces when I suddenly say that's what she said. And everyone goes, Jamie, you know about these things?
See, and people don't know that Pee-wee Herman started that, not Michael Scott in The Office. That was a Pee-wee Herman joke first.
Yeah. Yeah, and he has so many catchphrases. I'm not sure if he started all of these, but there are some, like, I know you are, but what am I, that will always just be associated with him. I will say one thing that I was hoping for that didn't happen in Pee-wee's Big Holiday, but really I didn't miss it. But I guess this is just if I were in the writer's room. When he has that scene in the well where he is talking to literally himself, I feel like one of them should have said, I know you are, but what am I? Because he's talking to himself.
It would have been going
but maybe the world would have imploded because maybe that would have been an existential crisis that the world couldn't handle.
Well.
But really, I didn't miss it. I loved it. I love Pee-wee's Big Holiday. Highly recommend it. Elliott, how about you?
You mean as far as sayings go?
Yeah, sayings. Anything that sticks out to you about the movie?
Well,
we wrap up here?
I will say my favorite lines from the last movie. Look at the time. I have to be going.
Oh my gosh. Yes. That's your new excuse to get out of anything, because while they're figuring it out, you're out of there.
No, let me run.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. Oh. I gotta say, I didn't say this earlier, but watching Pee-wee Herman, it gives me that experience. If you're a film geek, a film nerd, you've probably had this experience before where you're watching something and you feel like someone made it with you specifically in mind, because it's just your sense of humor. It's exactly what you want to see in a movie. That's how I feel watching anything Pee-wee Herman does. I'm sure that says a lot about me.
Well,
But
you know what?
just
You're not the only one.
Yeah, I
There's a
guess
reason
not.
why there's a reason why he's so popular.
Oh, definitely. Well, I hate to cut this off so suddenly, but Jammers, it looks like our time here with you is almost done. Now, don't touch that dial, because we have another great show coming at you next. Join us again next week, same time, same station, for another fun show, and we will be back to the music next week. So tune in for fun songs you can sing and dance to. Make sure you check my Twitter account at JackalopeJamie, that's Jamie, for more information about the artists and songs we're going to be jamming to next week, and all the other fun things I post, including probably this whole list of fun facts I have about Pee-wee's Big Holiday. If you have a request, question, comment, etc., be sure to find me on Twitter or go to my website and send it my way. I record every one of our jam sessions, so if you like what you hear and want a copy of this or any other Jammin' with Jamie, let me know. I'll be posting today's show on YouTube, so check out my channel and keep an eye on my Twitter at JackalopeJamie to be the first to know when it's up. And make sure you also check out Elliott Serrano. You can follow him on Twitter at Elliott Serrano. That's easy enough. And I want to thank my special Jammin' with Jamie guest, Chicago geek and comic book writer Elliott Serrano, for joining us today. Thank you so much, Elliott, and we should do this again. We should find another movie.
Oh, we'll
and
do
this again.
We'll do it for sure.
We will do this. Well, I can see all my fellow jammers out there are super busy, so let me run. LATTIHTBG. Look at the time. I have to be going. So until next week, this has been Jammin' with Jamie. Thank you for spending time with me, Jamie Lee, and Elliott Serrano. Keep jammin'. Bye.